welcome to my presentation. Let me introduce myself. I am K. Rahul Naik Svero of 8th standard from TSWREIS Boys V. Panagandla. What I would like to present you today, the topic which we are going to discuss now, that is a comparison of models of democracy. At the end of this topic, you will able to learn that the word democracy came from. Definition of democracy. What is democracy? Role of Abraham Lincoln in the idea of democracy. What are the main types of democracy? Characteristics of democracy. What is an Indian democracy? Which type of democracy we follow in our country, India? Which form of government is existed in India before we got independence? Advantages and disadvantages of democracy. What are the advantages and disadvantages of democracy? What are the differences between our Indian democracy and other country democracy? What is Pakistan democracy? We are going to learn in this session. The first question, the word democracy came from. The word democracy came from Greek language. Democracy means, demo means people and cracy means rule. It means all the peoples. It is also called as the powers of the citizens. Next, the word democracy came from. Definition of democracy. Democracy is defined as the government of the people, by the people and for the people. What is democracy? Democracy is a form of governing mechanism in which the government elects the people through the process of election. The legislative body is accountable to the people. Abraham Lincoln has said that democracy means of the people, by the people and for the people. Role of Abraham Lincoln in the idea of democracy. Abraham Lincoln was the first president of USA. He was the first person to introduce the name of democracy. He said that democracy means of the people, by the people and for the people. What are the main types of democracy? Actually, there are two types of democracy. They are direct democracy and another is indirect democracy. Indirect democracy is also called as representative democracy. In this representative democracy, we can say that there are other two types of democracy had involved. They are presidential democracy and parliamentary democracy. Now, shall we discuss about the characteristics of the democracy? Characteristic of direct democracy. In this direct democracy, people decide on their policies without an intermediary. In this democracy, the citizens are the real makers of the state policy and program of action. This system of democracy was followed in olden days in Greek country. Next, representative democracy. In this representative democracy, people vote for their representatives. This system of democracy is still being following our country India. Vote means a phase of election where people get a real choice. In this, the representatives elected by the people and rule the country. There are no kings and queens. In this democracy, we elect the people who work for us and who are good and selfless. The elected people should run the government according to the rules which are written in our Indian Constitution, and they also protect the commoners. They also should think about their welfare. Today, India is also one of the democratic country in the world. In this In this representative democracy, all the adults, whether men or women, rich or poor, literate or illiterates, officers or beggars, all are equal. Thus, a free and fair election of representatives is the basis of our democratic system. Next, we know about the presidential democracy. Presidential democracy. In this presidential democracy, the executive power is undivided. The president is elected by the people and not by his legislative branch, which gives him independence before his branch. This system of democracy still being following in USA. Next, shall we know about the parliamentary democracy. In this parliamentary democracy, defining characteristics of the parliamentary system or the supremacy of the legislative branch with the three functions of government. They are executive, legislative and judicial. This system of democracy is also follows in our country, India. Next, participatory democracy. This participatory democracy is the intermediary between direct democracy and indirect democracy, means representative democracy. Next, shall we know what is an Indian democracy? India is a federal parliamentary democratic republic in which the president of India is the head of the state and the prime minister of India is the head of the government. Our Indian constitution provides for an independent judiciary which is headed by the Supreme Court. Next, which type of democracy we follow in our country, India? India is a federal or quasi-federal parliamentary democratic republic in democratic parliamentary system largely based on UK model. Next, which form of government is existed in India before we got independence? Ambedkar on November 26, 1949, our India became a sovereign democratic republic after its constitution came into effect on January 26, 1950. Then Dr. Rajendra Prasad became the first president of our country, India. The three words socialist, secular and integrity were added with the 42nd Constitution Amendment in the year of 1976. Next, we know about what are the differences between our Indian democracy and other country democracy. According to me, obviously there is a lot of differences between our Indian democracy and other country democracy worldwide, because on one hand India is the largest democracy country in the world, but it is full of corruption and cheat, but not everyone. And other countries have smaller size of parliament or well developed than us. Moreover, our country has three types of democracy. They are central, state and local. First, we discuss about the central. Central is the first level. In the central level, we have the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. State is the second level. At the state level, we have the Legislative Assembly and Legislative Council. Local is the third level. At the local level, we have the Gram Sabha. Next, advantages and disadvantages of Indian democracy. Next, first we discuss about the advantages of our Indian democracy. By our Indian democracy, we have a lot of advantages. Our Indian democracy is based on the principles of equality and freedom. In our democracy, we have the slogans of the people, by the people and for the people. In other countries, it is not there much. In our democracy, all the citizens are equal. Our democracy can provide for changes in government without violence. In our democracy, the power is transferred from one party to another by means of election. The government runs on people's support. People support. In our democracy, uh, promotes equality and protection for people rights. This brings in a feeling of obligation towards the citizen. Next, we know what are the disadvantages of democracy. In a democratic nation, it is the citizen who hold the right to elect their representatives and their government authorities. Sadly, in some countries, people do not exercise the right to vote. Representatives may not necessarily be elected on merit. Next, what shall we know? What is Pakistan democracy? Pakistan constituency is a democratic parliamentary system of republic largely with a political system based on the elected form of governance. Next, we know about our democracy. Our democracy have majorly two kinds of peoples. One, all are equal in the society and all are living independently in the society. Next, we discuss about the International Democracy Day. Do you know when we celebrate the International Democracy Day? Yes, every year on September 15th, all over the world, people are conducting this day. On this day, they give the idea about the democracy who don't know about the democracy, and they also give the slogans about the democracy. They follow the democracy as per the rules which are written in our Indian Constitution. Next, shall we know the election system in our country, India? What is election system? Citizens elect their representatives through the process of election. This system of election is called election system in India. As we know that our Indian democracy is the largest democracy in the world. The elections which held in the year of 2004 from our country, India, there are 67 crores of the people have the right to vote. By this reason, our Indian democracy makes us to feel very proud and happy. This even praised by the Americans. According to William E. Woodson, there are four major models that emerged modern concept of democracy. They are protective democracy, developmental democracy, pluralistic democracy, and participatory democracy. First, shall we discuss about what is protective democracy? Protective democracy. A model democracy would protect the rights of capitalist actors is equals to a free market. Promoted by James Mill, father of James Stuart Mill in 19th century and founding fathers. Assume there will be inequality in society and that elite will and should rule. Worst part of democracy for these theorists, excess of democracy decided by tyranny by majority. Next, shall we know about what is developmental democracy? Developmental democracy. A model democracy would develop civic participation and good citizens. Assume people are inherently good, convinced by James Stuart Mill and Johnson made in 19th century. Accepts representation as a practical necessity, vets protective theory which fears the popular rule. Next, we know what is pluralistic democracy. Pluralistic democracy, a form of liberal democracy in which the power is widely dispersed. The citizen participate occur through pressure groups as opposed to voting in elections. Pressure group members allow people to promote diverse views, interests and grievances to the government. The United Kingdom could not be described as a fully pluralistic democracy, though it has clear elements of one. Next, shall we discuss about what is protective democracy? Participatory democracy. A modern democracy would have citizens who participate on wide scale, especially at local level. Arrived in 1960s as social group critiqued current power and structure. Special interest groups do not offer most citizens a chance at participation. People do not participate because they are naturally apathetic, because the structure of current democracy excludes them. Before concluding our topic, shall we know how our India before it got in democracy and independence? Our nation India, if before we got the independence, we are under the rule of kings and queens. We don't have any rights to do our work, and we don't have any opportunity to fulfill our wishes. We work as slaves in when we don't have the democracy, and some people who had thought about the democracy, we also want the democracy, and we also wanted to live happily and independently. They had discussed about the nice studies and libraries, and also they had spread all over the country by doing the by playing songs, by doing skits and dances. They had encouraged the people for our Indian democracy, and today our India became one of the democratic country. After our India became democracy, we able to do work independently and without depending on others. Before democracy, we are like a bird in the cage. Suppose a bird living in a cage without freedom, it can't live much more days. Like we also had lived like a bird in the cage. But when after 1947 and 1950s, when we got independence and democracy, we had implemented a lot of rights, and we also implemented a lot of rights, and we have to live with independently and without depending upon others. In those days, there is no education, but after the democracy had arrived, we have for all the peoples, whether they are men or women, rich or poor, black or white, Hindus or Christians or Muslims, or whether they speak one language or other, then our democracy became all are equal. All are equal. Our democracy took a long time to establish itself. In our democracy is based on the fundamental principles of political equality and inclusiveness. In our democracy, all the adults must have one vote, and each vote and must have one value. Our constitution also provides universal franchise to all the adults above 21 years of age. Sustainability of democracy itself is a testimony of its success and the struggle of democracy. Next, I would like to conclude this topic. Whatever be the form of democracy, its success depends on the citizens and certain important factors. Democracy stands for responsible government. Democracy is also based on equality without any discrimination on the grounds of caste, creed, religion, race, etc. etc. When the democracy had came to our India, all over the country peoples, we have become like a brother and sister, and we have all the rights to live happily, and we have also the rights to question them. But before the democracy, before we don't get the democracy, we don't have any rights to question the kings, queens, and landlords, etc. The landlords collect the taxes from us and they give for the kings. We faced a lot of problems before we get independence and democracy. After we get democracy, we had implemented a lot of rights to live us independently and happily. Many people had sacrificed their life for getting us independence and democracy. So, today's our Indian Constitution as following as per the rules which are written in our democracy. Can you observe this picture? In this picture, we are observing all the religions, whether they are caste by the caste, and men's are women's religion, and Hindus or Christians or Muslims, all are equal. Our national flag is included with the three castes, three religions. They are Hindus and Christians and Muslim. It tells us, means all the people who are present in our country India, they all are living equally and happily. They are living like a brothers and sisters. In those, before we got democracy, in those period, there is no rights for the women to do their works. But now, when we got the independence, all the women and men had equally have the equal rights to do their work. And after this, I will thank you. I thanks to the Telangana State Government, Social Welfare Society and TSAT for giving me this wonderful and golden opportunity. And I also thanks to my principal of my institution and my social mentor teacher and all the mentor teachers for guiding me. And I also thank you for your attention before me. Thank you.